Welcome everybody to Chinwag Nation episode 28. Steven and I are super excited to spend time with you because we're talking about something that we just both not only deeply care about, but are just, I think it's just part of our fabric. And that's what's humor got to do with it? I couldn't help, like when I wrote that, Steven, I couldn't help but think about Tina Turner. Like, what's love got to do with it? Like that song.
What's humor got to do with it?
Yeah, that's good. What's humor got to do with it? A lot. It has to do a lot. Uh, just a little disclaimer: these are our opinions. They don't reflect past, current, future employers or anybody that we associate with. It's just Steven and I having a good chin wag. We love humor. Steven, so a good friend of ours, Tammy LeClaire, she gave me this pile of scratch off dad jokes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and
What's
on there it says on the very bottom it says cheesometer, right? And
ooh,
then like if it's mild or sharp, and I just so happened to scratch off a sharp cheesy one.
okay, lay it on me. I
Yeah. So
feel like I can smell that.
what's the best way to watch a to watch a fly fishing tournament? You have to
I don't
pretend
know.
like I didn't tell this to you right before we
You
got
just
on.
told me right before.
You have to pretend like I didn't say anything right before we
Oh
got on.
man, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's live stream.
No,
Like kind of like what we're doing right now.
yeah, for sure.
You get it like a live stream fly fishing.
I uh, I I told my team we needed more continuous improvement, and they
Yeah.
said we'll work on it. That's progress.
Yeah.
That's my continuous improvement dad joke for you.
This show about humor tonight is not off to a great start.
It's the last time I try to meet your dad jokes with my dad jokes.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a dad joke, man. I don't know
This
what
is
that
well,
I
that's
don't
the
know
best I
what
can.
that was. Maybe I don't have the right co-host for this one. All right, man. What's humor got to do with it, Steven? What's humor got to do with it from your perspective? Like thinking about, I don't know. I broke it down into a few buckets, but I think about the most challenging times I've ever been in, and whether it's at work or at home, and man, humor just broke through it all. It made everything better almost instantly. And I think, you and I like to have a good laugh,
No, for sure.
through a variety of means, but just something about humor is super valuable, and I think super important, especially when it comes to leadership and especially when it comes to the workplace. But from your perspective, what comes to mind when you think about that?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think on your post on LinkedIn about this, right? I think I don't know who it was, but some the first comment was like, what does this have to do with it?" Um, just people I don't think oftentimes associate humor with leadership, right? And I think, well,
Yeah,
probably
probably.
if I had to talk about humor, well, as we're probably going to talk about here, I kind of think of it into two different buckets, right? There's humor as it relates to like leadership culture, how we show up as leaders, right? And we talk quite a bit about that here at Chinwag Nation, but I think it also speaks to just the operational and organizational culture in which you work, right? Um, because like humor isn't necessarily the opposite of seriousness. I would say it's oftentimes associated with the opposite of fear.
Hmm.
And I also think that there's a way that you can measure culture by what people are willing to laugh at, right?
That's true.
Yeah,
Like themselves or something that's happened.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. People will laugh together versus laughing at each other. Or even worse, sometimes people stop laughing entirely. Right. And so I've learned that humor can oftentimes be a variable and sort of a diagnostic tool for trust.
Yeah, I wrote, I think in the when we were I wrote the post for this live, I wrote that humor can change culture.
Yeah,
Like
I can see that.
fundamental. I mean, just the power of a dad joke and telling a dad joke uh and spreading that throughout an organization can shift culture. I mean, obviously workplace appropriate
Yeah,
clean jokes and stuff like that, but I've seen it. I've seen it fundamentally shift how people show up. I've seen it how shift uh, shift how people feel when they come into a room, right, with the person, especially if they're working with somebody who has a sense of humor. It just makes
yeah,
a huge difference.
for sure.
You know?
I would say, like, at least for myself, and Brian, you probably know this, like I am the king of self-deprecating humor. Um,
Yeah.
and I find, like, from a human psychology standpoint, right? Like ego is this, I need to protect my image. We see that all the
Mhm.
time in
Yep.
workplaces. Whereas like wisdom, I I kind of hit this point in my career where I realized like my humanity is my credibility.
Hmm.
Right. And I find like personally self-deprecating humor is my way of demonstrating confidence because it sort of signals that I don't need to pretend to be perfect.
Hmm.
And I kind of use that to set the tone. And I think that that trickles down into, like, say, the boardroom or a meeting room, right? Because I've found that like humor creates psychological safety quite quickly. And the reason for that is like nobody wants to contribute a dumb idea, right? Nobody wants to look stupid in front of their peers. And I think if you create these moments of levity, right, you're creating, I don't know, a safer space for that kind of dialogue. I mean, people feel more comfortable speaking up. People feel like they've got more authentic relationships in their working environment. People feel safer around their peers. Um, and we've talked about psychological safety, I think, in almost every episode of Chinwag Nation. But
Probably.
humor,
It's an important part of leadership. You
it
set the
is.
tone. You
Not
set the
everybody.
tone, man. You know.
Yeah. So,
Well,
I
I
think
just like,
if
oh,
we
go
can
ahead.
create that, right, that bridge between leadership and the rest of the team, and people realize that you're human, that I think we've talked about this before, like vulnerability and sharing your vulnerability is power, right?
My lovely wife has joined us. Hello, Johanna Mark. She's commenting from Facebook. So that's where I see it coming in from. Whoop whoop. Hey, I gotta tell you, man, you do some really good, you really do some really good quote hands. Like they're like well timed, well placed. They don't stay up for too long. Like,
I can't tell if
good
you're
job.
using the quote hands to show facetiousness or
I don't
because you're saying my quotes are well timed.
yeah, no,
Um,
like they were see like yeah, that's perfect. You got good form, man. You got good form on the
thanks.
quote hands. Yeah, of course. I actually wrote down. I have a few points here, but the one I wrote down aligns. It's like we prepared together. It's like we worked on this for hours and hours prior to this session. Steven, nobody knows. Nobody
We didn't even
knows.
have a topic until yesterday.
That's true. That's a good point. But it's a good one. It's a good one. I
Yeah,
think it's a good
it is
one.
a good one. I love this.
But I wrote down the best way to create a fail forward culture is to find the humor in the mistake,
Hmm.
right? Like we talk a lot about psychological safety. We talk a lot about fail forward. we talk a lot about like creating these environments where it's okay to make a mistake. And I think there's a function of humor when you can kind of, especially if it's not like an intentional thing or a repeated pattern, right, of a mistake, kind of a thing where you kind of actually probably have to do some coaching and help somebody maybe train up in an area where they might struggle. But like something that's just an honest mistake, like being able to laugh about it,
Yeah.
I think can foster that fail forward culture. It can actually, by finding the humor in the mistake, by finding the humor in the moment, um, can create psychological safety, can create the environment where people can actually feel comfortable failing. Because um, no matter where you work, like somebody's above somebody, right? So
Yeah.
especially in the United States, like there's even in flat environments, somebody's above somebody. And so I think if you know your boss can laugh about something and have a sense of humor about something, especially an honest mistake, that can create, I think, a really, really an environment that's actually like psychologically safe versus one where people talk about psychological safety, but it's never really psychologically safe, you know.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
humor is foundational to that.
I'm trying to think of a time where like I made a mistake, and trust me, I made a lot of those. And how different would it have been if like my boss just sort of like chuckled about it and been like, these things happen. This is experience, right?
That would have been
And
amazing. Sure.
sort of like here's what we're gonna go do about it. I don't think that's ever happened in my life. you
I
know.
don't. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's ever happened either in my. Well, maybe with like Bill Kehoe never. I mean, he didn't really like sweat mistakes. You know, I don't think he ever laughed them off, but I think he had a good sense of humor, if especially if he knew it was an honest mistake. Um, he was pretty good about that. Tammy LeClaire was pretty good about that too.
Oh,
Like,
take.
Tammy. Those are two people that I've worked for, in the past. You were pretty good about it, Steven. I never felt like if I made a mistake, it was too bad. You know,
For me, like being punitive about those types of situations is not productive at all.
no.
Um, I
But have you
mean,
have you ever laughed off a mistake for an employee that works for you?
oh, for sure. Because
Yeah,
I mean, I also try to be really careful, especially if I have the luxury of a fairly deep org chart to work ratio. Like I try to be very careful about like how much risk I am delegating out to my employees, knowing that ultimately, if the worst thing possible were to happen in that scenario, I'm still the accountable party as their leader, right? Um, and that gives them space to make mistakes. And by make mistakes, I mean gain experience, right?
yeah,
And I think we see
yeah.
this in the workplace culture all the time, where people talk about failing fast to move forward. We hear about, safe spaces to be innovative, but then culture doesn't always necessarily follow through on those promises and execution, right? It seems like as soon
Well,
as you make a mistake, you've got fear and now you're worried about your performance, this, that, and the other. But in
it's got to go.
reality,
It's got to go all the way up, though. Like that's got to be. That's got to be I think bought in at all levels to have that kind of
absolutely,
environment.
absolutely. But you have to, I mean, I'm trying to think if I've ever met anybody who hasn't made a mistake. In fact, when I'm interviewing people, I'm looking for experience. And experience, I think, is oftentimes this concept of overcoming those challenges and the adversity of a project, right? It sounds really, really simple, but unless you've been pressure tested or have had to go through, all of these different variables in which something could go wrong and figure out how do you mitigate that, like that's the experience, that's the strength. And it seems like we're so afraid to gain that experience now.
Yeah. You said something else when you were sharing your perspective about, you said the word levity, and I wrote that down too in preparing for this time. And thank you, Christy, for clarifying that you were responding to uh Johanna. um but I wrote down the word levity as well, and I said the value and importance of keeping things light is it helps, I think, convey I think you mentioned this earlier, it helps convey as a boss, as a leader, that you don't take yourself too seriously, and um I I've been in some environments, in work environments where the pressure was really intense, the work was really hard and complex, and if I didn't build in moments of levity, like the weight and the pressure and the intensity, would have crushed me, and it might have even
Yeah,
crushed those around me. And levity can come in the form of a dad joke, right? Which we kind of were kidding around with when we first started, but it can come in a variety of ways too. Um, like I think it's simple as asking yourself as a leader, how can I make this situation feel lighter? And I
yeah,
think there's a certain function of empathy in that, right? Everybody has a different interpretation of what light is and what heavy is, especially when it comes to work stress or work related activity. Like that, everybody has a different lens on that. And so you almost have to sense where your team's at. You almost have to sense where those around you are at to know that a moment of levity is needed. I mean,
for sure.
I've gone as far as knowing we had a full plate, a full agenda, a full workload. We were all busy, all slammed, all working our butts off, and we had our normal check-in meeting. And instead of making sure I went through the entire agenda for the meeting, I just said, you know what, we're wiping the agenda for today, and we're just checking in. And
Yeah,
I think levity and humor kind of go together, but I think it's an important thing to call out, that humor allows for levity, but levity in itself is a very powerful thing. It's the ability to make things light when they can very easily be heavy, and sometimes it's a choice
for
on whether
sure.
you do that or not. And giving people that relief is super valuable. And I can think of a few personal moments this past week where I could have done a better job with that, right? But
Yeah,
um, there's a lot of power in that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think you made me think of two things. One of which is that I, I think like humor is oftentimes hope in disguise, in a sense, like as you were mentioning, right? When people are laughing or chuckling through difficult circumstances, right? And I just feel like they're sort of unconsciously saying like we're going to get through this, right? Like it
Yeah,
brings that emotional tone
yeah,
down. And I also find like I remember being younger. We were talking about ego earlier, right? And as I get older, the less and less I care about what others sort of think of me, right? And I say that as like a recovering perfectionist, by the way. Um, but there was a time where humor was a tool to sort of be the center of attention,
yeah,
right? If you could own a room, you could tell jokes, people would be like, that guy's funny, want to be in that guy's social circle.
yeah.
Um, but as I get older, I find like humor, especially in the workplace, in how I use humor as part of my leadership strategy, it's not about self promotion. It's actually a form of service in the sense that the joke itself isn't really about being funny. I
Well,
mean, we talk about dad jokes, right? Like we know that these aren't going to necessarily land with the large majority of the world to where they're
speak
going to.
speak for yourself, man. I got some good ones.
But it's about giving people moments of relief, right? Ties
Yeah,
back to
yeah,
what we were just talking about.
yeah.
humor in itself is sort of a form of generosity. And if you can
Mm,
tell like a room is really tense and there's a lot of heaviness going on, right? Like you can set that emotional tone.
yeah. I wrote down when I was preparing for this time. I wrote down the value of laughter, the importance of laughter as well. Let's see. We got a comment from that. Johanna, it can be your love language to take care of others in a way that makes them laugh and lowers cortisol. Johanna just took the words right out of my mouth, man. Laughter reduces stress, reduces cortisol, it increases endorphins. It's like it's good to laugh. It's so
Yeah.
important. And I like that act of servicing, that act of generosity. That's really powerful. I think that's definitely speaks to the importance of the intent of the humor.
Yeah.
I think, and like if it's just to get attention, then, sure. I mean, I get that. I get that. And then but the power of viewing it from an act of service, giving people relief, that there's a lot of power in that as well. I know I like a good laugh. I
No, for sure.
laugh I laugh. It's interesting. I laugh. I use laughter as an expression for a lot of different emotions: nervousness, excitement, a good joke. Sometimes when I've actually made a mistake, I'll laugh, and that really confuses people.
Yeah.
Uh, yes, you can usually tell when the drive is genuine and to make people laugh because you care.
Yeah.
That was from, let's see,
It's for your wife.
that's from Johanna as well. She's jamming on the comments tonight, man. Number one fan in action.
I know she was replying to Christy, but my favorite comment so far is Johanna Mark saying replying to Johanna Mark, and it says, "Hi, beautiful," as if she's calling herself beautiful.
I know, but I think she was. I think it was a. I realized that too. I'm like, I totally made a mistake. I thought that was like somebody writing in there, replying to Johanna Mark or or Christy in there as well. But no, it's the actual computer, the
Oh, is that what it does?
yeah, Facebook letting us know that
I
they're
mean,
replying. They're replying to each other in the like a chat thread on Facebook.
to be fair, it's rare for us to have more than one person following us at one time.
Yeah, that's true. That was really disorienting.
Yeah, for sure.
It
You think
was like,
with
what
each
the
other
heck
now.
is going on? Oh my god. Um, yeah, Facebook comments are strange. I think I've shared with you. I've had people say that they watch our show, but they watch the recording of it. So,
Yeah, same here.
I mean,
We don't. I mean,
but yeah,
follow.
no, it's definitely disorienting when we actually have a few people like actually jamming it out. So thanks, Johanna. Thanks, Christy, for engaging and leaning in. But we definitely thought you guys were writing in there, uh we thought you were writing that out in the comments. Yeah, I don't know. I've been on, again, I think I shared with you some complex projects and some complex bodies of work over the last, 5 years or so. And I've found that humor and levity is just super important.
Yeah,
It makes or breaks the team and how they feel about the work. And yeah, I just find a lot of value in it, man.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, I think back to stressful situations, and there's this weird thing that happens when a mistake is made, or um a ball is dropped, or whatever, however you want to say it, right? And I found more often than not, unfortunately, the way that leadership often responds to that is oftentimes punitive and fairly aggressive. And um, it's it's almost as if like they could prevent the thing from happening by penalizing you in the moment. Whereas you have to realize like the thing happened, right?
Mhm.
You're now getting
Yeah.
feedback all the time. And
Right.
I think the most productive thing that you can do in those moments is, whether it's chuckle about it before you do anything else, is really think about, well, what are we going to do about it, right? Like the risk is going to get mitigated, um, one way or the other, and that the team is going to put energy behind fixing whatever went wrong, but it happened. And I think there's moments where leadership can really shine, where they anchor down in those moments of real, like, experiential learning opportunities, and then leverage that leader's experience to say, you know what, get through it and then do your retrospective. But um, you're not going to fix anything by panicking. You're not going to fix anything by slapping somebody on the hand and letting them know that what they did was bad. Chances are they already know that it was bad. Right. So, like, how do you create these positive learning experiences that hopefully can help people drive their careers forward?
I didn't write this down in my little notebook, my little idea book, but I think there's a certain function of just modeling that,
Yeah.
Um I think somebody wrote in the chat the importance of I think it was Christy who wrote. She wrote, let me see. Uh, uh, she wrote something in there. I'm almost positive. Oh, it said better. I think it's better to laugh with them. It makes work better. And I think there's a function too of as a leader, like being able to laugh at yourself,
Yeah.
like and especially when you make a mistake and everybody knows you did.
Yeah.
The function and power of extreme ownership, but then also just like being able to laugh it off, be like, hey, these things happen.
Yeah.
um and then to do that for those around you, it's super contagious. And I think people end up doing it for each other as well. They get better at laughing at themselves. They get better at bringing people into their mistakes, and being able to laugh through it. I don't think that that's what happens, in the lean world in a manufacturing environment when they pull the on cord. I don't think people join you around you and start laughing at you. But
No. No.
but there's a certain power and function of actually like creating an environment where it makes it okay to make a mistake and learn from it. And
For sure.
in the Japanese culture, in a manufacturing environment, in a lean environment, I think the on cord is culturally acceptable. I think in the United States and the US, in kind of our corporate, work environment, it really just all starts with you as a leader. If you can laugh about it, if you can laugh at yourself, it fundamentally can, again, like I said before, it can fundamentally shift the culture. You know,
Yeah. For
I've
sure.
seen I've seen dad jokes shift team cultures. I've seen dad jokes shift entire workplace cultures.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of power in that.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get like too dark in our humor podcast, but I think you and I can both relate to this, right? But um, having come from where we came from, where we've grown in our careers, what we've experienced in our careers, it's amazing the amount of pressure you can put on yourself to
Sure.
perform.
Yeah.
And I've found it doesn't matter if I commit 60 plus hours a week. It doesn't matter how well read I am. It doesn't matter. Um, how intelligent I am or my best of intentions, like mistakes still happen. And to this day, I still feel the significant weight of each mistake
Sure.
that I make, right? You start like
Yeah.
beating yourself up, and
Yeah.
sometimes there could be real ramifications that happen because you've made those mistakes. Um, Learned from every single one of them, right? But I could only imagine how much healthier I would be, or even the longevity of my own life would be if there was healthier cultures around these experiential learning opportunities. Because I
Mhm.
know I've taken years off of my life with just the stress
Sure.
and the pressure that I carry for myself.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Uh, so I
Yeah.
mean, talk about a service that you could give as a leader and as a culture. Um, Realizing that, like, as somebody who is a bit of, I would say, the class clown of a workplace, right? I'm frequently reminded that I need to take myself seriously. I've learned that, like, if I take myself too seriously, right, you become rigid. If you take yourself
Yeah.
not seriously enough, right, you become careless. But
Yeah.
I found, again, like, there's this wisdom of how you somehow manage to take things seriously without taking myself that
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
And part of me wishes it was just completely strategic and a logical way to approach all the pressures of my work environment. But I think in some ways it's become just a survival mechanism. If I take
Mhm.
myself too seriously and I'm constantly learning or making mistakes and there's that pressure, right?
Yeah.
And these cultures that we've been a part of, like, it can just crush you. You have to be able to let some of that weight off your chest one way or another.
Mhm. I like it, man.
Yeah. Um, I was just reading Joe's comment. That was very super.
Oh yeah. Very grateful. I mean, I paid her to say it. I'll just be honest.
That's good.
I paid her to write all that nice stuff in the
That's
comments.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife doesn't even come to these, so
Okay. Well. Yeah. Like all those nice things that Johanna wrote in the comments. I totally paid her. It's like, listen. We need some comments like pronto.
yeah.
What do you want? Do you want a latte?
Help,
Do you want some new
help us with that.
shoes? What do you want? Some new shoes? Like, what do you want?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, Joe.
yeah. Why doesn't your wife come to these?
She's
Are we not?
juggling two kids.
Are we not funny enough?
I I think we're plenty funny. I think she gets enough of that. Uh,
I think she's full of the humor. She's full of the humor already.
she
Uh,
she's just she's juggling two littles and a teenager, man.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
full
Yeah.
time job.
Fun job for sure. Well, hey man, if you have any parting words for folks as we wrap up tonight, what would they be? Like, if you're a leader watching this, who struggles with they either take themselves too seriously or they don't know how to find moments of levity in the workplace. Maybe they just have maybe they've just never been part of an environment like that, but they want to start carving that out. What would be your advice?
I mean, there's just so many different things that we can tie humor to. Your network development,
Yeah.
how you show up as a leader, right? The culture that you've developed
Hmm.
or trying to develop within an organization. But I think what matters most is that humor itself as a leader is fundamentally about helping people carry heavy things.
Hmm.
And sometimes the strongest thing a leader can do, tying it back to our leadership community, is lightening the load, right? Um, and I think that applies back to, kind of that more serious moment, and kind of personal sharing of just pressure and stress, right? But you want to talk about developing leadership communities, right? People want a sense of belonging. Everybody wants to be cared about.
Mhm.
Um, People who have good work ethic, who are showing up and have their reasons to show up, are oftentimes putting themselves under an immense amount of pressure, an immense amount of load. And what we can do as leaders is find ways to lighten that load. And humor is definitely a tool to do that.
Yeah, I like that, man. It's lightning load for sure. As you were sharing, I couldn't help but think about the importance of, or the foundational pieces for humor to either be believed, and I'll explain here in a second. Like, they the humor is believed, like it's believed to be authentic, right? So, and that it's understood, right? Because there's like, you could think you're funny because, but the person receiving it is like, that's not fun. That's not funny at all. And I think there is a function, especially if you're a leader. The takeaway I would say is, like, you can't just jump into that. Maybe
Yeah,
as a brand new leader, you could. Um, it might be a little bit easier, but if you're seasoned and you're like, okay, I'm gonna start weaving this in. Like, you have to have the trust with your team. Like,
yeah,
if they don't trust you, humor is gonna feel like an additional weight. It's gonna feel like dead weight.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
if you don't have the relationship with them, you're not going to know how to place that humor, and you're not going to know how to find those moments of levity. I think the of lightness of, I call it I actually wrote this on a recent writing I wrote, that those moments of levity are like a void in the noise. You're almost creating like a bubble around the situation and the person you're engaging with, like almost like a void, because the pressure is noise, the activity, the communications, it's all creating energetic impact.
Yeah,
And you almost have to, in order for levity to truly be like, in order for a lightness and levity to truly be there, you almost have to create like a pocket that kind of blocks it out, everything else that's going on, to truly feel that moment of lightness. um but without trust, without relationships with your people, humor could definitely backfire. So think about that. If some of these things that Steven and I shared are like, oh, that's a good idea, I might roll that out. Like, don't. If like, focus on trust building first, focus on relationship building, um and then maybe like start weaving in the humor. So, to your point about culture earlier, you kind of have to kind of assess where you are with your people, because
yeah,
there's there's a time and a place. I
for
think, for
sure.
some of the stuff.
And I hope that every leader has someone in their lives that can make them laugh so hard that they cry.
Yeah,
Right? Like, there's,
yeah,
I think, all the
it's
work stuff aside, all the politicking, the strategies, humor implementation strategies, whatever it is that you want to do in the workplace, right? There's so much about, like, how do you show up every day. And I know for me, I've got a small friend circle. Brian, you're part of that, and we have our guys' weekend, and I laugh so hard every single time we're all together that I cry. Um, and it's amazing just how much that does for the spirit and the soul, right?
yeah.
Drastically changes the way that you show up at work and how you navigate these situations and
Mm,
all that kind of stuff. So, we've talked about the ripple effect before. We've talked about the importance of personal power, right?
Yeah.
But find some way to laugh until you cry.
Yeah. I
For
like
not in the workplace, but go find that
I've had my moments. I've cried in the workplace before. I've had my
from laughing
moments.
or just in general.
Many reasons. Many reasons, dude. Long time ago. But it's happened. It's happened. Well, hey, for those that were able to join us tonight, I think we have my wife here hanging out. Maybe not, or Christy. Thanks for joining us. And then for those that watch it after the fact, we're always available for a phone call, a question, or reach out. Please do. We set this up. We started this to build community and build connection with folks. So please reach out to us, and wishing you all a great week ahead. Thanks, Stephen, for your time, man, and for your insights. And I wish you a great week as well. Bye, everybody.
You too,